Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, February 15th, 9:30 a.m. I'd like to begin the Commissioners' meeting. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to start with a prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we beseech your divine guidance in this meeting. Keep us ever mindful of our obligation. Grant us, dear Lord, wisdom, tolerance, and courage that we may well serve our county and fulfill our trust. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to also, if you wouldn't mind, if we could all rise to pay tribute to the passing of Speaker Bill Batchelder, who was a mentor to, and friend to many of us and public servant to all. Thank you. Okay, we've got minutes.
I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion to approve the minutes of the public hearing and the Commissioners' meeting of February 8th and both on February 8th.
Moving second, any discussion, any changes? Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes. All right, very good. We do have, let me see, any public comment regarding pending resolutions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and proceed. Jeremy Simcoe, our sanitary engineer.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Two resolutions for consideration today. The first is accepting and awarding the bid for the Center Road Water Main Extension Project. That was west of Waggle Road. And the second is accepting and awarding the bid for the Hedge Drive Sanitary Sewer Relocation Project.
I did have a question. First of all, I'll make a motion to approve the two resolutions.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion?
Yeah, I just had a question. So they did come in a little higher than we
Correct.
originally anticipated. And so I just want to make sure that was ARP money. You guys were okay that we're going a little higher than we originally anticipated on ARP money for this?
Yes, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when we originally had the sewer main designed, it was just west of the new proposed building, and then we ended up shifting it all the way to the west property line to stay out of the parking lot, and that just added to that. That was the extra cost there, so.
Okay, got it. All right, any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good,
Chairman.
thank you. All right. Next, let's see. Oh, our Nicole Lee, Assistant Human Resources. How are you this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning, Nicole.
How are you?
Good.
I have one resolution. I have rate increases, one in sanitary, one at the Office for Older Adults, 5 at JFS, and 2 in IT, and then one resignation at the county home.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Thank
Very
you.
good, thank you. Amy Lyon Gavin, our Assistant County Administrator.
Morning, Amy.
Good morning.
I have 7 resolutions for your consideration this morning. The first one is amending the appropriation measure resolution. The second is approving the submission of a program funding agreement for the fiscal year 22 felony delinquent care reclaim grant for the juvenile court. The third is approval of a revolving loan fund administration agreement with the Ohio Department of Development. This is a 5-year agreement, so this will be 22 through 26. The fourth is authorizing the commissioners to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department Services Agency for the implementation of the plan year 2021 Community Housing Impact and Preservation, which is the CHIP program. Fifth is approving an agreement for mental health program services at the Medina County Juvenile Detention Center. This is with Alternative Paths for calendar year 22. The sixth is allowing expenses of the Adult Probation Department. And the seventh and last for me today is the approving claims for the week in the amount of $898,926.19.
I'll make a motion to approve the 7 resolutions.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
I just make a comment on the travel for adult probation, that number does include 6 people, and it is being funded with state dollars, not general fund dollars.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Next, department updates. Richard Nelson, our chief building official.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Richard.
I believe you all have a copy of the report for the month of January. Up near the top, there was a pretty big spike in the value of construction for the month of January, mostly due to the Redwood Apartments getting started and pulling a bunch of permits. So that number's jumped quite a bit. Dropping down, the value of new homes starting off this year is down around 396,000. A little more realistic, but still a lot. But quite a bit down from last year's average of 454 that the year ended up at. Second page, our monthly receipts for January up a little bit compared to last year. Things are looking pretty good so far. New homes in January was 25, which exceeds the previous 3 years, amazingly. So that's starting off pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Our commercial started off very slow in early January. We only had 5 or 6 projects in the queue early in January. It was very slow. That since has changed. There's about 16 projects in the queue now going through the system. Several of them are quite large, including the Cloverleaf High School and now a new commerce building that they're planning on in Westfield there, where the old truck stop got torn down some 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Big project there. But,
Do you know what the value of that is, that construction? Have they submitted?
they have submitted, but I don't remember the value of that. Sadly.
That's all right.
Um,
I'm with you, I understand.
Yeah. But, yeah, so things are doing good. We still have good turnaround time, review times. Our RBO's been off, for several weeks on FMLA. He'll be back, with us, I think, working from home at least in the next couple of days. But we're keeping up good. Review times are good, still good at 3 to 5 days in residential and around 18 days in commercial, so.
Good.
Things
Very good.
are looking good.
All right.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Richard.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, David Corrado, Medina County Fiber Network. Morning.
Good morning. So, quarterly update on the network. We've completed all construction in Seville and Westfield Center. Approximately 23% of all homes that we passed have signed up for service. Obviously, it's a little slower this time of year with the weather. It's hard to find utilities, et cetera. So, not going at the same pace, but we're still working on the remaining 70-some percent. So we have programs going out. For those people that may not know about it, we run at the demonstration center at the corner of Route 3 in Greenwich, streaming 101 classes for people to understand the fiber network and the services it brings. We just started connecting homes in the Fox Meadows area. Of the 825 homes that we've passed, about 8% have already signed up and have been connected. Again, a little slower working south of Poe Road due to the weather, but we continue in that area. Next will be, two things. One, we'll be working up our way into the fall into the Chippewa Lake area, but still continuing to move into the Medina area probably within the next 2 months or so. So we'll continue that work as we move northwest from Montville Township. And then from our ARPA project, we're approaching now the second posting. In the paper, of course, the RFP is up on the commissioner site and on the Port Authority site. We've had 3 responses so far. Tentative date is March 11th for all bids to be in and for us to review and then make the appropriate selection.
And Dave, what is the purpose of the RFP?
The RFP is according to federal guidelines for ARPA projects greater than $10 million that they, if you're using those funds, you need to submit an RFP. It has to be posted with 2 postings in the newspaper, 7 days apart. And then from the second posting, it has to be available on the website for 21 days. And then the selection process can start after that.
And then Scott Miller will be representing the county in the evaluation of those proposals.
Yes, so we did write in the RFP that Scott or Amy, and/or Amy, will also be assisting, so we have input from the county. Okay,
Excellent.
great.
Thank
So
you.
Dave, just,
Oh.
they got me hooked up last weekend. Service is phenomenal.
Wonderful.
And they did a really good job of getting everything organized and set up for me, so.
Good. Glad to hear that.
It's, the service is well worth it.
We love the testimonials.
Yep.
Keep them coming.
Excellent.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks.
Next, we have Ed Zachary, Veteran Services. And we have your updated report. Fresh.
I gave you a new one this morning
Yes,
because the one I
thank
sent
you.
you yesterday was not quite correct. You got new speakers in here because you guys sound fantastic.
Yeah.
Just a little plug. So we'll start out on page 4. Just I'm going to go over everything, the services we provide and everything else. So we do obviously an immediate financial assistance program with rents, mortgages, utilities, food, hygiene items, and certain medical. We run a transportation program to Cleveland, Lewis Stokes Hospital, the Seebach and Parma, the Seebach and Akron. We provide grave markers. A lot of people don't know this. Memorial Day is coming up. All the grave markers in the cemeteries out there in Medina County are provided by our office. We do notaries for veterans and their families. We work with the recorder's office downstairs to get the ID cards, which in turn helps people ride the Medina County public transit for free. We now run a kind of a co-op dental program with the Medina County Health Department for our veterans down there. And then with the Department of Veterans Affairs, we do submissions, prosecutions of claims and appeals, and just about any kind of paperwork that someone needs with the VA or the federal government. Our assistance program last year helped 207 Medina County veterans and families for 2021. 17% of those were new clients. Those numbers are relatively low. The high number there is the new clients. So that was kind of strange because typically we see about anywhere from 8 to 10% of new clients. So the new clients are up, but the numbers are way low. Our lowest year ever. We wrote $157,277.39 in vouchers, and we wound up paying out $152,664.90 on those vouchers. The dollar amount spent for financial assistance on the veterans that applied for it was an average of $759.79, which is about the average for the last 3 years. It has gone up in the last 10 years. Our dental program paid $15,910.88 for dental work for veterans of the county. We had 18 that used it last year, and every month it seems like we get a new person that's coming in for the dental, so the program's working really well. The graph on page 7 simply shows what it costs to service a veteran, whether it's financial assistance or just administrative costs of taking care of veterans. And they've gone up over 20 and 21. A little bit of that is because the numbers drop that we're seeing in the office, so obviously the cost rises when you average that out. So. On page 8, we still have 15 active veteran service organizations in the county. I want to point out that those organizations and one of the nonprofits in the county help Feeding Medina County. Typically over the winter, the Christmas Feeding Medina County giveaway, they do about 200 laundry detergents and sundry packs and everything else. This year, Katie came to us and said, hey, we're doing all these other venues, so can you do 500, which was more than double. So they came through, they provided over 500 sundry packs, almost 1,000 bottles of detergent, and 100 food vouchers or meal vouchers for just veterans. The vouchers just went to veterans. So, and that was all nonprofit money, donations. We had a couple organizations that came in and helped pack all the sundry packs. So it was really good to see the community come together and help the veterans organizations, which in turn helped feed Medina County. Those groups is where we get our commissioners. I'm proud to say that we have our first female veteran on our commission this year, so Victoria was appointed. And it's good to have somebody that represents the Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans as well as the female representation on the board. So we're pleased that she got picked. Our transportation, we provided 788 rides to the 3 clinics that we go to in the main hospital downtown. We did add a wheelchair van. We added that right in the middle of COVID. So we didn't use it very much the first year in 2020. Last year, it kind of went through the charts. We're using it probably a couple times a week. And we have purchased one. We ordered one last year. It's not due until August or October this year. So the guy said I could get the van, but it wouldn't go anywhere because none of the chips are in it. So hopefully we'll see that van this year. And that van is dual purpose. It'll take people that aren't in wheelchairs and in wheelchairs. So instead of just having one, and then we'll get rid of that old one that we got from transit. The vet center that we partner with, they relocated this past year to the Office of Older Adults. You folks gave them a nice office over there, and they're very pleased with it. They can use the community room over there for group counseling, and then they got the office for single. They saw 259 veterans over there and their families. I know they're doing virtual. They went back on virtual, I think, over the holidays, and I think this month they're going to come back to the office again. So that's all dictated by the VA. There's still 2 veterans group homes in Medina County, and of course we talked to all the nursing homes. There's some contracted nursing homes and other nursing homes that have veterans in them. It was kind of hard the last couple of years to get out to them. We're starting to be able to go back into them and talk to the vets and brief them on different things. As far as the Department of Veterans Affairs, we filed 325 new claims for the VA, 523 non-rating claims in 2021, and 80 appeals. And the appeals is a huge thing because over the past year, and COVID hit right as the VA was starting to implement this, so we can now do virtual appeals in our office over the last 2 years. And I mean, they take time, but it's a great thing for the veterans. They don't have to drive to the federal building to do the hearing. The VA is starting to see where they're not seeing such a high no-show rate because people can do it in their community. So we're doing those. We're able to prosecute the claim and represent the veteran right there. They come in and the judge is on the big screen in DC and we get it done. So that's been a huge benefit. Altogether, we saw 2,208 appointments through our office last year, 2020, which was getting back up to where we were pre-COVID, so that's a great thing. Just the money, and these are 2020 numbers for the money because we haven't gotten 2021s yet. Almost $80 million from the Department of Veterans Affairs came into Medina County in 2020. We're expecting that number to go up for 2021 when we get that report in May. Through the Ohio Department of Veterans Services, we filed 13 veterans bonuses. That number is going to go down. For anybody that doesn't know, the veterans bonus for Afghanistan will end 3 years from August 30th, 2021. So in 2024, that bonus will go away. So if you know anybody that hasn't applied for it, tell them they got about 2.5 more years to do so. We only filed one MRF claim, which is for severely disabled folks that got injured in Iraq or Afghanistan, and that's good. So we're seeing those numbers dwindle. And we're not sure what Ohio is going to do with that program because they have a bunch of money in it, and it's going to take some legislation to move it. And so we really don't know. We have told them what we'd like to see them do with it, but we just don't know that. We hold 310 powers of attorneys from 2021 for veterans. We hold a lot more than that. That's just over the past year. We filed 44 medical claims for veterans, almost 100 discharge requests through either DOD or NPRC or Ohio. 1,666 rides on the transit. So we started that program 2 years ago where if you have the Veterans ID card, you can ride the transit anywhere in the county. I think they'll tell you over there that it's working well with 1,666 rides. It gets the veterans that normally were saving their money to just go for one appointment now, or maybe a medical appointment. Now they can go shopping and things like that. So it's been a great program. Just a synopsis on page 13 and 14. We kind of returned to a more normal year in 2021 as far as seeing clients and doing things, and we're glad about that. The goal has always been to provide, you know, the best benefits and get people the access to the benefits they deserve. We have seen a capacity to where we just can't do more. I mean, there's some things out there we'd like to do, and we just don't think we could do it, and that's why we applied for the ARPA money to expand our capacity in the building. We don't have the room for another counselor or another service officer or anything like that, and we really need to do that to help better serve the veterans. Some of the things we've added that have made that the reason why is, you know, the appeal hearings, those take 2 to 3 hours. So normally when, you know, I or Jenna would be doing, you know, 3 or 4 appointments, we're now locked in a room with the judge and a veteran for 3 hours. So there's some capacity there. We started to review all the homestead exemption forms for the auditor's office because throughout the state they were starting to find where there was some forfeiture of forms. So people were forfeiting the applicant. It's crazy that the state of Ohio just has you fill out a form for that, but for a fishing license, they asked the federal government to authorize. So we started to do that. And we really haven't found any fraud in Medina County. We have found some errors, but so we started to do that. The transportation, I talked about the dental program. Homeless, we had 96 veterans either homeless or in danger of being homeless last year in Medina County. So that's a number that most people would go, holy cow. And we're going, holy cow. And I know we've talked about this and, you know, with the homeless shelter and everything else. And we work really hard with MMHA. We work hard with the VA to get those people so that we can get them the services they need so they come out of that situation. But that's a huge number for a county like Medina. So just in veterans. The Veterans Court with the City of Medina, we're starting to help them. We're part of that. We are part of their team down there. So we do that twice a month. Which takes some capacity also. So obviously you can see we're doing more with the same amount. We're just trying to hopefully expand that so that we can do even more and still give the same amount of service to the veterans. In closing, I just want to give you 3 things. March 30th at 9:30, we have a ceremony, Vietnam Veterans Commemoration Day over at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And then at 11 o'clock at the hall over here on Broadway, there's going to be a luncheon for our Vietnam veterans and guests. On April 2nd, we have a benefits brief. You do got to call our office to RSVP for that. I think they're going to have pizza, and then we'll do like an hour-and-a-half briefing on benefits. That's a Saturday evening. And then the coalition has scheduled a banquet for April 29th. I know they just had one in the fall, but they're going back to the spring. That one was actually the one from the year before because of COVID. So those are 3 big events that we got coming up for veterans here in the near future. And then, of course, Memorial Day, but I'm not sure what that'll bring. So. Pending any questions? I know there's a lot of reading there. You want me to read all this to you.
Well, I just had a question. You
Yes.
indicated the assistance program, actually the numbers have gone down. Do you think, is that possible because there were other sources? I know the need didn't go down, but they found other sources for help.
Yeah, so when COVID first hit, we saw it spike for about 3 months.
Right.
And then, you know, the SNAP benefits is paying everybody 100%. We do a lot of augmentation of SNAP benefits for seniors and disabled folks. So we're not seeing those. Of course, our unemployment rate in the last 8-9 months has gone to 0 for veterans. I think we pretty much stand between 0.1 and 0.05% or something like that. So it's not a matter of the need. It is the folks that we have been servicing in the economy that we've had over the past few years are now getting the SNAP benefits, and other folks are working. So it's not a matter of us turning folks away or anything like that.
Well, we also had the bonus or the stimulus checks that came in.
Right.
Too,
they
that
came
kind of
in
helped
too,
bump it up a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
So right now, since those are no longer coming in, now we expect those numbers to start going up?
I don't think we'll see a few go up. I don't expect, because most of them are back to work. I think
Right,
when we're gonna
okay.
see the numbers go back up is when the federal government stops providing 100% SNAP.
Got it. Okay.
I think that's when we'll see the folks that we usually see for that benefit come back. So unless unemployment goes up.
Right.
I don't think we're gonna see that, hopefully. I hope not.
Okay, yeah.
Ed, how often do you send folks down to Newbridge and to the other veterans home?
Just, you mean to go down there and say hi, or to send people down there to actually?
Either one, both.
I usually go down there a couple times a year to drop something off. We get a lot of, like, people will drop clothes off and stuff like that. We go down there. I go down there whenever she calls me if one of the veterans needs something. I know we do claims for folks down there. We have had a couple references that we've referred people over to them.
Mhm.
Most of her referrals, I believe, come right out of the VA, though, from what I understand. She's kind of got that contract with them.
Right.
But, yeah, we probably touch base with them quarterly in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, good.
We we also, and here's something people don't know, is we take people out to the Ohio Veterans Home too for tours. So if they schedule a tour, we'll drive them out there so they can tour it, so.
All right, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Commissioners' resolution, we have appointing a member to the Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities. This appoints Mark, Kruzkeskowitz. Hopefully that's the right. He was a great person to interview. We just called him Mark. So, but this appoints him to fill that position expiring December 31st, 2025.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moving to second, any discussion? A roll call.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes. Next, we have another resolution, reappointment of Kathy Brighton Booker to the Medina County Convention and Visitors Bureau. The Medina County Convention and Visitors Bureau has reorganized, changed, updated their bylaws, and requires a reappointment to the new governing board. This would provide that appointment, Kathy, for the term expiring December 31st, 2026, and the copy of the bylaws are attached.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussions? Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes. And thank you, Kathy, for serving and continuing to being willing to serve on that. All right. Let's see. Next, open it for public comment. Anything from the public? The only person public we have here is Stan. Nothing? Okay. That's your shot. Okay, very good. We'll now go into for discussion session. Jeremy. Super.
Just wanted to give you an update on the Columbia Road Riverbank Project. We have our first change order on the project there, and it's about $350,000.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a scope change of work, it's just a bunch of material that had to get substituted out. For instance, the riverbed, they assumed that they would have to go 3 feet below the riverbed to get to the river base, the rock there. And on the southern end of the project, they had to go about 9 feet where they were putting in one of the weirs, so it was just a lot more material that was needed there. And that held consistent for about, I want to say about 400 or 500 feet moving north. It may not have been 9 feet, but it was additional depth. The other item that they ran into is on the riverbank itself, they were expecting worse soils based on their soil borings, but as they got into the riverbank, they actually ran into good soil, which is a good thing in one respect, but on the other respect, they were going to use 304, which is a backfill material. They were going to bench it, right, like this, and put the fill in. Well, because they ran into the material sooner, that the bench got shorter, which no longer allowed for the 304 to be used because it needs that wider bench. So they had to use type C rock, which is probably your 18 to 24 inch diameter stone. So those stones are more expensive than the 304, so they had to use, it's a better material to go in Davy Resources' opinion, but so we're getting rid of 304, but adding larger stone, more quantity, so that's really what that is. There was $150,000 in contingencies in the contract. Hopefully we won't see a lot of extra change order or quantity adjustments, but so I guess at the end of the day right now, that would add about $200,000 to the contract, so.
So you're going to be coming back with a resolution?
Yeah, next week,
Next week.
hope to get that
So
moving.
that'll take the total cost up to like the 1.5?
1.7, I think we're gonna be,
1.7,
yeah,
okay.
with the change order,
Okay.
so. And then the other thing, Heather Hedge, I know we had briefly discussed, if we were gonna adjust the ARPA money, I was gonna recommend that we go to about 125,000, which would be an extra about 35,000. That way it leaves about 10,000 for any potential change orders that we might incur while installing that. And then our line maintenance division would like to purchase their flusher truck, which was part of their 2022 budget. We talked with the vendor. If we order it now under state purchasing, they're saying that we could hopefully have it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we would like to get on that a little bit sooner, so hopefully maybe something in the next week or so I'll have something for that. So
Okay.
Make sure you let Amy know about the adjustment in the ARPA.
we'll do.
And I did want to bring up House Bill 422, you brought to our attention.
Mhm.
And that involves changing the ability for the county, or in this case, the original version was municipalities, in terms of recovering unpaid charges for utilities, which would include our water and sewer.
Correct.
Do you want to describe a little bit as to
Yeah,
the
so
concerns?
currently, once a year, we certify the delinquent amounts on the utility bill to the property taxes to collect those unpaid charges. I believe this bill is gonna allow, or not allow rented properties to, so if there is a property owner that rents out the property, we would not be able to then recover those delinquent charges on, I believe, again, it was just rented properties at the time, so.
Right, and I know that there's actually an amendment, a new version of the bill coming out tomorrow. And I know they have hearings on that, and this is the State and Local Government Committee for proponent testimony. And they'll, I guess, reveal those changes, and I understood the changes would include those now into the county and actually make it more difficult. One of the provisions of the original bill calls for, basically creates a billing appeals board within the Ohio EPA and creates a due process, if you will. So it would include the ability for a county or municipality to make those charges without going through an appeals board, which is obviously pretty much of a bureaucratic mess to have to go through in order to assign those charges to that. So this is one that the CCAO is monitoring. I would recommend that we try to develop a resolution of some sort, communication, if you wouldn't mind, to our General Assembly, particularly the House members, in opposition to that. And if you could maybe put that together, we could pass that, so by the next time they have.
Probably have to do it soon, though.
Well, the proponent testimony is this week, so if they have committee meetings next week, we need to have it by then.
Right.
So, yeah, we don't have to worry about it this week, but we ought to, put the letter and everything together this week,
Okay,
and hopefully adopt it next week.
sounds good.
And we'll also have by then know what the new version of the bill has and how it impacts the county.
Yeah. And what's included in it.
And what's included and what isn't. I've heard that actually it's gonna make it worse for us, not better. The original intent was just only apply to municipalities, but they've expanded it.
Yeah, to include any water district.
Yeah,
So
anybody,
whether
any
it's-
water and sewer,
Right,
yes, yes.
right.
Which makes it a problem. What's interesting is there's a provision in the code that requires a local impact statement for any legislation. The way they introduced that, there was no local impact statement, local government impact statement required. They said because it had minimal impact on local government, which is, I would argue is somewhat of a farce.
I would agree.
But have a significant impact on local government.
Right.
So, okay,
All right.
great, thanks.
Sounds great, thanks.
Richard, do you have anything else for us?
I meant to mention that our report is put online later today. Everybody needs to see that.
Okay, all right, good, good. We have also with us Skip Sipos. Did you want to bring up the housing network plan? All right, very good.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Skip.
Appreciate the opportunity to give you an update on the work of the Housing Network and its efforts aimed at reducing or eliminating homelessness here in Medina County and addressing the emergency housing needs of our fellow citizens. As a recap, you may recall last year, Philip and I presented to the Commissioners. We came in with the Housing Network's recommendation to address the needs of those folks in our communities facing housing emergencies, various crises. Took my seat. You'll recall we talked about a three-pronged approach. First was permanent supportive housing, which is housing for homeless persons with disabilities, which could be a disabled vet. Ed's comment before struck home with me. Additionally, we talked about rapid rehousing. Rapid rehousing properties and programs are aimed at people who are temporarily sheltered and get them into another housing situation. That was the second prong. The third was to plan for an emergency shelter for the county. As you know, we don't have an emergency shelter here in Medina County. Contiguous counties do. What we said we would do first, though, was to conduct a detailed needs assessment. I have 3 slides that I'm going to share with you that are going to go on the screen. The first slide, the group that came together through the Housing Network presented, and you have a copy of it at your place today, the Coordinated Community Plan to Prevent and End Homelessness. And the first step was to create a vision statement. I'll read that one to you. It's on the screen. Everyone in Medina County has the opportunity to have a home and thrive. This is the vision. To make the vision clear, the group came up with a common goal and a mission statement. That's my next slide that I'll have on the screen for you. I'll leave it to you to digest all the information that's in your packet, but clearly the mission statement and the goals are aimed at addressing the core problems that we identified in the need assessment. And this was done by the network at large. Network members created work groups. So we had work groups around 4 different areas. One was the prevention of the crises that we documented. Second was to address emergency and temporary housing needs. Third was rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, which I talked about just a bit ago. And then service and resource supports. Everything that we're talking about doing will come with wraparound supportive services. That's the critical piece of this. And as you know, our efforts to date have been sporadic at best. The data that we collected, though, came from over 30 organizations. It was a very detailed survey that was conducted. Over 30 agencies, including government organizations, nonprofits, churches, a variety of churches that were included in this. And what we learned is that on the total expenditures on an annual basis, and we studied this for a couple years in the needs assessment, but I know from the Housing Authority's perspective, this has gone on for a very long time. Hundreds of households per year are assisted, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars of assistance. Sadly, the coordination of those resources is not very well done, and tying them to the resources, the services, not just the resources to help, but the services, has lacked a coordinated process. And that's part of what the plan comes away with. The primary recommendation we have for you today is for you to consider the plan and add your support, the Board of County Commissioners' support, to the Housing Network's proposed plan of action. Again, the network is designed to be an advisory group to you, the County Commissioners. You should know that the network's steps have been thorough, thoughtful, meaning not kind, but full of thought, and inclusive. The network members, church-based organizations, nonprofits that are faith-based, and individual citizens participated in this planning process. It weighed the ideas from all of these folks, documented the need. The need is real, and proposed specific plans to address it. The second, and probably equally, maybe even more important recommendation that we'll have for you today, and that's my last slide, is the recognition of the need for an emergency shelter for Medina County. Thanks in part to the foresight of and the funding secured by State Representative Sharon Ray, we've already begun studying the idea, the concept for an emergency shelter. We want to make sure that it's appropriately sized. We have the data from the needs assessment telling us how many people are in crisis and would require this. We have the resources being done to figure out not only how to size it, but where it should be best be located, and then figuring out what it will cost to develop it and how to operate it. As I've said to anyone participating in the process, it has to succeed. We have people in need, and we have to do it right. We have to do it right from the beginning. I know you've also heard me say it, and others have as well, that in this county we have a protocol. If there's an abused child, we have social service agencies, law enforcement, they know what to do. Got a stray dog, pick up that stray dog, we've got an animal shelter. If someone comes across a homeless person on the street, we don't today have a protocol in place to coordinate it, properly approach that person and provide services. This plan helps us get to that point. I'll conclude by telling you that the momentum on this is very real and very strong. It's widely supported throughout the community, in the cities, again, in the faith-based organizations, to the point where right now, part of our rapid rehousing plan includes a faith-based affordable housing cohort, right? It's a group of churches, clergy, and laity actively involved, acknowledging the problem and seeking solutions to it. It's pretty exciting from that perspective. And while this need is significant and often sad, especially from a staffing perspective, this county has an amazing history of not only addressing problems, but providing the resources and the support to get good outcomes. And we have that opportunity here. So the Housing Network is committed to going forward and addressing each of these action steps. This isn't something we're going to put on a shelf. We're going to address these steps and keep going forward. We appreciate the past support of the commissioners and look forward to your acknowledgement of the plan, support of it, as we make a big difference in the needs of people here in the county. I'll stop there. I'm happy to entertain questions, concerns, celebration.
Skip, how many homeless folks, what's our census at any given time? Roughly, or range?
Part of the challenge is making sure that those who are getting helped by a church or a government agency or a nonprofit, that we're talking to each other, so that's what we're putting together now. But if our shelter were to, if you, in your plan, I didn't bring my copy up with me, you'll see that any given night we could have single digits to higher 15, 20 people needing to be housed. And it could be a combination of single men, single women, families. Children especially have been part of the census that we've discovered for our needs assessment.
So if we were to construct a facility for people in crisis, how big would it need to be? I mean, are we talking about a facility that has 15 living units in it, or something less than that?
We're talking about 20, right?
Approximately 20, but then they would have segregated living spaces so that it could accommodate men,
Right,
women,
right.
and
families. Yeah.
And families, yes. A structure of perhaps 4,000 square feet, and the amenities needed to address people coming in from a crisis situation.
Yeah, they got kind of a breakdown with the various scenarios, and I just want to thank all the agencies, all the nonprofit, the churches, all the individuals involved through this comprehensive planning. This really was an initiative, and I want to thank Representative Ray for helping provide the funding so we could do this right and identify it and quantify it, but also make sure that we have everybody involved in this. And but we're now down to a point where we're saying we know about the scale, we need to go, and we actually have, through a coalition, the ability to identify, as you said, kind of the resources needed, the place, and literally I think this is the time to try to address some of that. The need is there, as we heard today with Ed Zachary talking about how many veterans go through that, and just multiply that. When you think the veteran population compared to the total population, that's actually a smaller number. So it comes down to a 20-bed unit, that's about the size. I mean, we could build it bigger, but that's one at least much more doable, I think, with what we've got. But the idea is to get them in there temporarily until they rapid rehousing, as you I think very accurately point out in that process, rapid rehousing, then more permanent housing with the assistance of the various agencies and nonprofits and so forth to help provide that. Right now, there's a lot of money being spent through the churches alone in providing housing at the hotels, and some even have their own buildings and their own houses that they've been using for a number of years. But that only has minimal capacity. We see beyond that, we're still getting homeless that really are falling through the cracks.
And the key piece to that, Commissioner, is to make sure that the service provisions are there for these folks, that the wraparound services, and again, in this kind of great services, we have great agencies providing assistance when the people are identified and able to be served. So that's where that missing link is between all the various, with great thought to help folks, but once it's in a coordinated way, the potential for positive outcomes is enhanced significantly.
Well, I know in the 2000, whenever United Way tried to examine this issue, we evaluated it. We were looking at the possibility of doing an emergency shelter. Well, they decided to focus on prevention because we really didn't have the wraparound services. Now that we have a human services levy, we've got the ability, and I'll just say through cooperation and collaboration of various agencies, we actually have the capacity to provide that. The last thing you want to do is build a structure like this and not have the ability to move people forward in a very positive way. In other words, that they can actually help stabilize them. And that was the one piece that's missing, and this would be the one part, I guess, that needs to be completed as soon as we can. So the next step you're asking for us is obviously acknowledge the plan, hopefully support the plan, and move forward with helping to provide funding for the emergency shelter.
Yeah, we should have plans completed within the next 30 days or so as to what the size and capacity for that shelter would be, what the cost would be, not only to develop the shelter, but then to operate it. And so my hope and expectation is that we will proceed with that. We'll build the shelter, we'll come to the commissioners with that, and we'll seek other funding sources.
Do you have any general idea on location yet?
We're exploring a few different things. We don't want to be, we don't want to get that out there at this point in the game, but a centralized location makes the most sense, as much of our services are. Where the Housing Authority's office is, and Ed's building for veterans is. You've got Job and Family Services, you've got the Human Services building where Alternative Paths and the Adam Board are.
And in transit as well,
And
has to play a role.
And
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
proximity to jobs and services is always the key for this type of thing, so we're exploring several.
The plan, the collaboration is incredible.
And it always has been in this county. I think people realize it that are involved, but it's pretty amazing to have the folks that work together the way they do.
Skip, have you talked to Habitat for Humanity?
We're working very closely with Habitat.
Yeah, they've been part of the partnership.
Right.
And on other pieces, parts of that as well, yes.
Yeah. So at this point, we will look to you in the near term to come back with a plan for us in terms of an emergency shelter, with also, what the price tag will likely
Yes.
be. And I know we have a deadline with submitting any support for projects for the state capital grant with Representative Ray and Representative Kick, as well as State Senator Romanchuk, and that's in March. So we very quickly need some kind of a good estimate and a financial plan that we can look at. Now, this is qualified for ARPA dollars, and Amy can verify that, and we can go through all the August legal counsel to make sure that the components, but as I understand, this would be an eligible appropriation utilizing those dollars.
And I'll reiterate again, the architects are working on the design
Good.
pieces of this, so we'll be able to put numbers to this, a final, real number
Okay,
very soon.
so I guess we'll see you in the next week or two.
Two, sure.
Okay.
Two sounds good.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we have enough time to
I
put it
understand.
forward so that and ask the state for their,
Yeah,
their,
Mark's over here.
their assistance in funding
And
this.
for your colleagues' benefit,
Yeah.
Commissioner Hambley was involved heavily in this process,
Yeah, yeah.
and his professorial mind was pushing the consultant to do much of this, so
Well, that's all right.
kudos to him as well. All right, thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, a lot of this was occurring on Zoom because we could utilize it. We could for the work groups. And I'll just tell you obviously that has really helped in the participation level. Whenever you're going through the COVID, as we have, and people and the agencies that participate can't do basically in person, that technology has enabled that input to continue throughout this process. That otherwise, if we didn't have that technical ability, that would have hampered not only the quality, but also the timing of being able to come up with this. So, and thankfully, the legislature and hopefully the governor signed that bill that would give us the ability to go back to Zooms for some of our other public undertakings as well. So, okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. All right, let me see. Anybody else? Stephen, do you have anything for us? Kathy? All right. Okay, we have a number of other. Amy, since you're here, did you want to also? Okay.
Thank you very much. I apologize. I had to step away for a few minutes.
All right.
So we've been having some recent discussions, and on Scott Miller's behalf, since he's on vacation this week, I thought I'd be able to update you a bit on the stormwater activities at the Highway Engineer's Office, the permitting and their design reviews and floodplain analysis, everything that's related to stormwaters and so forth, and services that their department has provided for years on behalf of the county commissioners. So just some ongoing discussions in terms of that whole subset of services that the highway engineer has traditionally offered. Some potential discussion for breaking a department out to where there would be a county department that would be specific to stormwater activities and permitting, and also the idea of working with a local engineering company to come in and help us to review the stormwater regulations, review past practices, a lot of things we've done over the years, very well, but we've not looked at it with fresh eyes to see how might we be able to do things better. Are there some efficiencies we can build in? What needs to be updated, perhaps? So those are the ideas that are under consideration right now. Nothing's happening, to my understanding, abruptly. It's very important that we continue to serve the public, and we've got a lot of development going on, so we want to, maintain that consistency, but also make folks aware that those conversations are occurring in a positive way.
Okay. And the consulting engineering firm will also help us look at the highway use manual, correct? Which involves some of the permitting.
Involves all the permitting. doesn't
Well, the
it?
permitting that is under the authority of the county commissioners.
Right,
Correct.
right.
make it clear.
Because I assume if we're gonna make this move, it's going to include all the permitting.
Yes,
and
we're
not
gonna be
just-
reviewing
not
all
just
of it.
stormwater
Right.
Correct.
and
Yeah.
drainage.
Yep, yep. And I think that having an engineering firm help assist us in doing the analysis. Obviously, we've, as you know, Scott has looked at and provided information of all of the various ways counties have done this. And we got a slightly different history. I think this is the time to take a look at it comprehensively and evaluate it and then come up with a long-term, most efficient, most effective, and most, I'll say, beneficial way to make sure that we're going to meet the needs of protecting our infrastructure, providing the public benefits of stormwater management, erosion control, as well as flooding mitigation. So all those are part of that.
Should we transition, do we have a timeline on that?
I believe over the next couple of months, the discussions are going to continue. We had already reached out to a couple of the engineering consulting firms to gauge interest in participating, and the 3 that we talked to were very interested, complimentary of, continued practices, but also I did have some ideas on looking at how things could be improved based on their experiences with other agencies. So I'd say within the next couple of months, the future will be more clear.
And I think, I don't mind publicly saying, we've looked at some of the areas like an enforcement of our stormwater regulations, of our erosion controls and so forth. And one of the ideas of efficiency that early part of the conversation was involving our building department inspectors. They're out in the field inspecting for footers and so forth, and with some additional training, they could make sure that the stormwater plans and the erosion control plans that are part of the public benefit of those projects, that they actually are out there doing that, rather than sending out somebody from the highway engineer's office to do that. That just makes sense in terms of efficiency and effectiveness of enforcement of our regulations. So those are areas that we can examine, which just makes sense, and obviously much more valuable as a building inspector is, they're there. And I know in municipalities such as Brunswick and elsewhere, actually their building inspectors do the stormwater inspections. So it's a model that could work, and that's what we need to evaluate.
Right, and as far as, from a private sector perspective for developers, contractors, excavators, a one-stop kind of contact, would be very efficient.
Agreed.
So this would include driveway permits
Yes.
and so
Yep.
forth.
Yep,
So,
all of it. Yep,
Right.
very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Amy.
All right, appreciate it. Okay, anybody else? If not, we'll go ahead and with our own. Bill?
Just a couple things. NOACA had a meeting last week, and because of the census, every 10 years, they look at population and break down the fees associated with being a member of NOACA. So Medina County, because our population went up, and other counties' populations went down, our fee is gonna go up by about $4,000 a year. So we'll be somewhere in the $83,000 range, as opposed to. The other item that I wanted to bring up is Board of Elections. They are having issues with their e-poll books, which is the system that validates signatures when people go in and vote. And they are looking at replacing that equipment, and they need somewhere between 200 and 250 of these things, and they run anywhere from $800 to $1,200 a piece. And so I would anticipate that they will be coming to us shortly with a request for somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 to replace these things. I asked them, it seems to me that whenever we have equipment coming from the Board of Elections, it is a massive request. And I asked them whether there was the possibility that we could break this down into successive years to lessen the burden on the budget. And they're going to look into that and see what they can do. So,
Yeah,
but I would expect that to be coming.
Well, it also would be great to have options in selection.
Agreed.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I know actually Representative Wright is working, I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to reveal that, but
No,
she is working on
is,
an
in fact.
amendment to try to help fund, because we're not the only county experiencing this.
Right.
A number of counties, and because of the way the money came in at the federal level,